we would see the agents of the presidential candidates being called to a meeting. Of course, it was not in public, so we don't know the content of those meetings. Eventually, we saw some chaos. How can IEBC explain this?
It's not specifically on IEBC to explain, but it's how the petitioners are going to raise the question, how they are going to raise the issue. Because from my understanding, the presidential elections are announced at the polling station, which results to Form 34A, which are then transmitted to the tallying center. At the tallying center, at the Bomas, is where the tallying and the counting happen, so that it can help the national returning officer to declare the presidential winner. So it's how they will raise the issue. And if you look at the way they are bringing out the issue, they are bringing in the issue of the hacking and replacement of Form 34As. But for those who are keen at the process that was ongoing at Bomas of Kenya, there's no single day that the petitioner, specifically the team from Azimio, provided a specific Form 34A of a particular polling station that differed with that one that was downloaded from the IEBC portal and that one that was issued or was announced at the polling station. So it's how they have raised the issue, cumulating to 27 constituency, and how IEBC is going to respond. Because on the night before the following day that the results were declared, there were some issues pertaining, and even not even on the night before, the whole process, there were some issues where you could find commotion within the flow of where the tallying was happening and the verification. Clearly, there were some efforts to try and undermine IEBC not to declare those results or announce those results.
So what is the place of those things you're saying before court?
So it's about how the petitioners have raised it and how IEBC is going to respond to those issues on how it ended up not being able to announce the 27 constituencies.
Sam, if I can add,
yes,
I think there is no question that the IEBC commissioners did not publicly announce results of about 27 or 28 constituencies at Bomas.
Right.
There's no question. But then let's remember that those results are meant to be first announced at the constituency tallying centers by the CROs, the constituency returning officers. Let's also remember that when they went to Bomas, IEBC had a mechanism for uploading the Form 34Bs. And their argument will be that we may have failed to announce them publicly, but we uploaded the forms on the portal and the data was transferred to the 34C. So what is being stated by the petitioners is correct. We all witnessed last week on Monday, we were waiting for the announcement of those 27 forms, and the country was gripped. We were on tenterhooks. We didn't know how the tally was going to go until the final result was announced. So there seems to have been a failure or an omission by IEBC. IEBC could argue that there were various reasons of security and otherwise that made it impractical for them to declare those 27 results publicly, but that notwithstanding that failure, those results were shared publicly and they did not change from what was announced in the constituency tallying centers. That is a legal argument. That is for the court to decide. Do we agree with IEBC's explanation, or do we think that this was such a fundamental failure that it went to damage the credibility and verifiability of the tallying process? That really is what the court will decide on that issue.
And Bashir, from what I've read, it appears the issue is them not being announced. I'm not sure I've seen an issue of whether the results from those constituencies are verified.
You see, Sam, what they are alluding to is that if this result, in as much as they were not announced, if the petitioners are to prove that these results were not announced, but something has happened that amounts to an electoral offence. Issues to do with how any manipulations might have undertaken.
Right.
I think that is what they're trying to allude to, that these results were never announced. Maybe something has happened underhand. But you see, one of the things that I keep saying is, for me, I voted in Wajir County. And in one of the constituencies, the entire election had been postponed, being a last constituency. Yes. And the results, especially with respect to the declaration of the member of parliament for Wajir North, for example, and Eldas, was announced, I think, hours to the declaration of the president-elect. So I think they are trying to show that in as much as you did not announce this result as required, maybe if there are any manipulations that might have been done on these particular forms, we be having some issues with that. But I'm asking myself, even practically, if you could not announce the result for Eldas constituency, the member of parliament, if those results ended up being counted as part and parcel of the results for the woman rep for Wajir County and the governor-elect for Wajir County, those results ended up coming out towards the declaration, I think the final days of the announcement of the presidential results that we have had. So the big question is, actually, the member of parliament-elect, for example, for Wajir North, was given his certificate 48 hours ago.
Yes. Yeah.
So you see, these are now some of the issues that they are trying to show. They're actually saying that we are questioning the integrity of the process. You know, it is trying to show that the neatness of the process was not so good. So I think this is now part of the arguments that the petitioners are now trying to use. They're trying to bring forth the aspect of saying, look, this process has not been clean. And I think some of the examples that they might also be trying to show is that lateness, that delay. What has it been occasioned? Is it a reasonable delay? If it is not reasonable, what is it that has actuated that particular delay? If there is more than meets the eye, we expect on the part of the petitioners, as they have alleged, it's on the part of the respondents to show that in as much as we did not declare, we did have this particular delay, it is reasons A, B, C, which are reasonable, that have actually caused that delay. But I'm telling you for a fact, some of those things that we have witnessed in parts of the country is what is actually making the petitioners question the integrity of the process. There is one more thing, one of the more things that I've actually observed is that we need to ask ourselves, of these constituencies that are being questioned, will they be having any impact on the outcome? Look at the numbers.
Yes, they will. They will have an impact. I think the issue that Sam was raising is those 27 or 28 constituencies, were the Form 34Bs verified? Were they even signed by party agents? Because if there was a verification process, if they were signed either at the constituency tallying center or even at Bomas after verification, then IBC would be saying, we did the verification. These are the figures. Do you have alternative figures? So IBC will have their argument, and the question will then arise, is this announcement, this oral announcement of the result, is it very material? Is it very important? And do you announce the results both at Bomas and at the constituency tallying center? Because in the case of IBC versus Minor Care in the Court of Appeal, the court said that the Constitution says that the election for president will happen in the 290 constituencies. So that it is actually 290 elections that are aggregated, the results are aggregated at Bomas. So IBC will be arguing that that election in those 28 constituencies took place, and the results were aggregated in the constituencies. They were declared in the constituencies in the presence of your agents. And when they came to Bomas, even though we didn't announce, we just verified and we uploaded them on the portal. Right. So you see, these are actually legal arguments that are founded on a factual underpinning that the court could decide either way. But clearly, both sides have a legitimate argument to present to the court.